Welcome. This is John Malanco, the Sacred Plant, and I'm looking forward to this interview. You've met him before, and his beautiful wife in our docu-series, but this is John Easterling, husband and business partner with Olivia Newton-John. And so they've gone through a lot with cancer. We're talking about cancer. We're talking about what John has been doing over his career, but working with herbs. His nickname is Amazon John, but we know him as John Easterling, and he has a lot of exciting things to share. Today he's in Australia with his wife, and so we were going to patch him in. So I thank you, John, for being on, but I'll just give a little brief here. John Easterling, also known as Amazon John, has been an herbalist and cannabis expert for over 30 years. And as I mentioned, he's married to his wife, Olivia Newton-John, for the past 11 years, and acts as her caregiver and right-hand man for all things treatment to cancer, or treatment for cancer. So welcome back, John. I thank you again for being on with us and trusting us to get your story out as well. So welcome.
Hey, I appreciate it, John. Thank you so much. Always great to be connecting with you and supporting the work you're doing.
I thank you, and I mentioned, Olivia a bit. I'm a big fan of Marriage One, but also being in business and going through life as a partner. I mean, how blessed is to be able to not only marry your best friend, be in business with your best friend, but also by your side, by each other's side through the good and bad. I mean, that's the whole purpose of marriage, for sickness and in health. And we both experienced this. I think it brings you closer together. And so you've done a lot, not only for complete strangers, but like me and like what Corinne and I went through, you're kind of thrown into this. You're like, wait a minute, this is not, we've been helping so many people for so long, and now it's my time to help my loved one. And so thank you for that. And I know you that's near and dear to your life as well. And I love that Olivia is doing well. So can you share what you've been doing? I know we had you on the show, and you were at your house in Ojai, California, and now you're completely on the other side of the world, down under. It's a day ahead of us, so I hope the future looks bright for us over here. But can you talk about what you've been going through, what Olivia's been going through? You guys have been very public, and so I think it was on People Magazine. Did I see you on People Magazine a few weeks ago or a month ago?
Maybe. I don't necessarily keep up with all that.
Yeah. And so just, can you go over basically, her treatment, the processes and experience that you've gone through, and what was the biggest breakthrough, in getting the best results, not only for patients, but of course, your wife, Olivia, with the Sacred Plant?
Yeah. Well, it has been quite a journey the last year, John. And a year ago today, normally we come down to Australia here every year because we do a walk and run to raise funds for the Olivia Newton-John Cancer Research and Wellness Institute here in Melbourne. And we were down for that last year, almost to the day. And she was experiencing a lot of pain, and we did the walk. And it was the next day, went to the hospital to see why all this pain was in her hip and in her pelvis and what was going on. And so it was actually a fracture there. So they had a fractured hip, which is part of the kind of progression. It's a metastatic. I mean, her issue is stage 4 metastatic breast cancer. It's metastases to bone. And this is the third recurrence of that. And we've been very successful with the first bout and even the second bout. And okay, here we go again. But over time, that compromises some of the bones, and the bones actually just gave way into a fracture. And so, fortunately, we were at the Olivia Newton-John Cancer Research Institute, and so just checked in right there. And it's almost like you've seen the TV show The Undercover Boss. Where the owner of a business will get a job in that business and go through So we checked in under a fictitious name. So it was a lot like the Undercover Boss. And so she wore a little gauze mask and no one would recognize her in a hospital. And it turns out it was a wonderful experience because of the caliber of human beings and the caring there and the top-notch service they have. But one of the main things was like a month of bed rest. So she was in the hospital flat on her back for a month while that was healing. Now, the other things that she did, and we're public about this too, and this goes back to a main issue and just the broader sense of health and healing. We all have to take responsibility for our own health. I mean, ultimately, we are responsible for our health, and we make the decisions about what we do in regards to our health. So same way in our case, her and I discuss everything. She makes the decision, and once that decision is made, I encourage people to take responsibility for their health. It's not up to your doctors to tell you what to do. It's not up to, oncologists or therapists to tell you what to do, or family members or friends, or just well-meaning people in the public. Everyone will have their own idea on what they think would be the best methodologies to go about it. And you want to educate yourself about everything that's available, and you want to understand your physiology, and you want to discuss it with each of these people and take in all that data, and then you make your decision. And then for everyone out there who has a friend or loved one going through this, it's really important to recognize once that person makes their decision, then you support that decision. You give them your love and your support, no matter what that decision is. It could be anything, but whatever that decision is, that person made that decision, and it's their body, it's their life, and they have every right to do that. So whatever that decision is, then you just pile on the love and support for them, pursuing that decision, and you go through that. So being flat on her back in the hospital at the cancer center there in Melbourne, they were suggesting a couple of spots of radiation on the areas there in her sacrum, and a variety of things. But what she chose to do was to do that and to start an estrogen blocker. It's a estrogen positive breast cancer. So that's what she did. And over that period of a month being there, of course, wanted access to the sacred plant, and we let them know, hey, we need some cannabis in here. And in Australia, they had just started a medicinal cannabis program, but it's extraordinarily difficult to actually get permission, if you will, to use cannabis in Australia. Example, they started 3 years ago with this program, and they've got just a little over, they have 14,000 people in. Florida started 3 years ago, and there's 380,000 people in their program.
Yeah.
So I know people in Australia. There's a very active industry here of growers and processors and extractors, and they're doing a good job. So we've got some material and began using it in the hospital, and we showed them, hey, this is what we're going to do. And they said, that's fine, do that. We can't recommend you do it, but we're not going to stop you from doing it. We see people in the hospital doing that, and we see them faring pretty well. So we began that there. So after a month, she was released and came out essentially in a wheelchair. And we got back to California, where I've got access to now. I know the cultivars, I know the mixes, we're in my garden.
Yeah.
And so I began to go through the formulations that I do. But she was in a wheelchair and then in a walker, where you're bent over in a walker, taking these little baby steps, and lost weight. I mean, it was really, quite an ordeal. And I know you're intimate with all that, as millions of people watching this are intimate with that whole process, because that's what we see. Now, you asked me what the biggest breakthrough was in this regarding the sacred plant. The biggest breakthrough was as I'm sorting out the variety of cultivars that I'm using in the mix, and I got it down to 21 different cultivars in a specific formula, and then processing that, doing a cold process on that. Essentially, I grow out the flowers, some specific techniques we can talk about on how I grow to enhance what I consider the therapeutic value of cannabis. And then I dry the flower, and I take the flower and I spin the flower off with dry ice. So I'm just taking off the trichomes, where you've got the concentration of cannabinoids and terpenes. Then I extract that with a extractahol, which is organic 190 proof sugarcane alcohol from Brazil. And that can be bought online at Amazon.com. And then I do a quick
is that your company?
I'm sorry, John.
I'm joking. Is that your company, Amazon.com? For the Amazon.
No, I had Amazon Herb Company before there was an Amazon.com. And somebody said, "What's the difference?" And I said, "Well, those guys have never even been to the Amazon."
Yeah.
But
that's part of my humor here. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries, mate. So anyway, I'm just kind of laying it out because I think everyone should be growing their own medicine, because you develop that relationship with the plant. And the beauty of this plant is some of the simpler botanical extraction methods work really well with cannabis, because the cannabinoids are being so soluble in alcohol. Anyway, so the biggest breakthrough was when I started combining some specific cultivars and doing a cold process where you've got all the acidic forms of the cannabinoids. As we know, as a plant grows, it grows and it yields and produces THCA, CBDA, CBGA, all the way through the spectrum of cannabinoids. And then once that's heated or decarboxylated, then it becomes THC, CBD, and all of that. And of course, your THC is non-psychoactive. So you can have a very high THC plant that's non-psychoactive until it's heated. So if you smoke it, that's heating it. If you cook it in a brownie, that's heating it, and it becomes psychoactive. However, the CBD is you heat that, or the CBG, or any of the other cannabinoids, CBC, you're not really going to get a lot of psychoactivity from that. But there's therapeutic value. It used to be called activating it. You heat it and you activate it. But now we know very clearly that the acidic form of the cannabinoids are extraordinarily therapeutic in a little different way than the other cannabinoids. And I want all of that. So I'll have partial acidic form of the cannabinoids, and I'll take that particular formula and distill that down, gas off the alcohol, concentrate that so it's fully decarboxylated, and then that goes back into the mix. So, and which cultivars? A variety of classic landrace cultivars, a lot of others that are hybrids, some from my favorites from the 80s from the coffee shops in Amsterdam, some of the classic strains, some of the newer genetics, but ultimately the ones that I want a variety of cannabinoids. So, the plant will come, each cultivar will have its own specific profile of cannabinoids and terpenes. So many of them will be very high THC, others will be high CBD, some will be high CBG, and so on, right through the thing, the CBDV, the THCV, and CBC. So I want cultivars that are higher in each of these, and I want other cultivars that are really, really expressive in the terpene profiles, because we know the terpenes really modulate the expression of these cannabinoids. So that's why I ended up, I started at 26 cultivars. I've got it down to 21 now. And that combination, once I did, the acidic form and the decarboxylated form, in that combination, in that specific formula, from the very first 3 drops of that she did, we saw pretty much an immediate shift And over a period of 3 months, then the mobility started increasing right away, the pain relief, and that's something that people noticed immediately. And the other, physiological mechanisms of activity, kind of take a little bit longer to actually express, but the pain really began to come down. And with a broken pelvis and being, flat on your back, she wasn't mobile. She was in a lot of pain. They had her on morphine drips. So she came out of there, with, as we see so often with, bottles of opioids and morphine. She was on, just pure morphine. And since that formula that I just described, we began that, the pain went down, the mobility started increasing, and over a period of like 4 months, we got completely off all the opioids, completely off the morphine, 100% off any painkillers at all, zero, none, nothing, with this formula. The mobility has increased quite substantially. She's up, in her walker, put the walker aside after about 3 weeks, and but couldn't make it all the way down to the barn where we, feed the horses. And she's such an animal lover, so it's kind of frustrating for her not to be able to get out there with the chickens and the horses and, our dog and cat to play ball with Raven, our dog. And so, but all that has come back. It's over like a 4, 5, 6, 7 month period. And so this is almost a year now. And the mobility is pretty much right at, all the way back. She's up, she's walking, she goes down and deals with the horses, feeds the horses, walks all the way around the ranch, drives around, visits her friends, does everything. And it's really astonishing the recovery and the difference this has made. Really astonishing. Now, I expected something good to happen, but it's been beyond good. It's been really astonishing, and it astonishes everyone else. This is the 3rd recurrence of stage 4 metastatic breast cancer, and she's doing astonishingly well. Last month, we went to the first big trip for her. I felt comfortable enough, after 4 or 5 months that I could leave her there, with someone else. And I could, I've been speaking at a lot of cannabis conferences and conventions and whatnot, and got back into my garden a little bit. And so the first big trip we made was just last month. Went to, I was in Japan. I came back and picked her up when we went to Spain and to Ireland and then to Florida, and then came back, and she's been sailing right through it. We got to Australia about 10 days ago, and she's out right now with friends, shopping in Byron Bay. And it's just astonishing, the recovery she's made. So all I can say is, I'm very grateful. I'm very blessed. We clearly understand that. We've been in prayer and meditation and visioning this happening, and that's exactly what's happened, John.
Well,
couldn't be a better story.
I'm so happy you got your wife back. How important is that? And I'm a fan of therapeutic value. You mentioned a lot of things. Back to your formulations, I'm a fan of 190 proof food grade alcohol. I've never tried the Brazilian sugarcane. Is that something that could Everclear is illegal in a lot of states, and is this something that I can start recommending? Is it still like in Hawaii? Hawaiians aren't able to get Everclear. Is this something that they can have sent to them?
I think so. I've never heard it not being available to people. It's called Extractahol.
Extractahol.
And I've got HPLC at my house, high pressure liquid chromatography. And so when we were looking at setting that up, and that's just for testing cannabinoids, I can run 11 cannabinoid testing, at the ranch. And so we ran the extractahol, and I had some serious scientists there as they were training me on this, the high pressure liquid chromatography to run the cannabinoid testing. And they said, well, let's run your alcohol and see how clean that is. And it was totally pure. It was as pure as a pharmaceutical grade methanol that they use in this testing. And the methanol is not used for doing any extraction, but as far as running cannabinoids in a high pressure liquid chromatography, that's what they use. And this was just super clean. So I do recommend Extractahol. It's very specific. It's 190 proof organic sugarcane alcohol. It works beautifully. It's not inexpensive. It's about $100 a gallon. Yeah, so you can order it on Amazon. They deliver it. Someone has to be there to sign for it because it's alcohol. And I haven't seen it turned down or unavailable from that standpoint in any state.
And you mentioned it's organic. I know that, but it's organic Brazilian sugarcane. And I think this is a great tip, and I'm not taking anything away from you and Olivia, what you've been through, but helping others, because a lot of patients that want to make their own oil that don't have access to it, and they want to make their own, and they don't have access to 190 proof food grade alcohol. A lot of them have been using isopropyl, and they're wondering why they're getting sick or throwing up or being nauseous. And there's a reason why you and I can't drink, or I should say the winos down the street aren't going down and buying a 69-cent bottle of rubbing alcohol to do this. And it's
exactly.
I'm not into the extraction business, but I just think it's when you're going through something as serious as cancer, you want to make sure that your body's clean. And I love this is something that Corinne and I, even in our healthy days, prayer, visualization, positivity, and it sounds like you and Olivia have that down. And I love to hear that she's back down, because I'm in Montana right now, as I mentioned, and tomorrow's our Corinne and I's anniversary. But we'd come out here and go visit the barn, feed the horses, ride our ATVs, and that was happiness. I can only picture what Olivia is going through, knowing that she has that again, and she's able to go out, and then she's out with her friends right now too. So with Olivia, stage 4, is she off that? I mean, how are you treating this right now? Is she back?
No, we're staying. Yeah, well, we're staying exactly with the program we're doing with this formula, and she'll do. We started off. We had her up to a pretty significant dose, probably close to 500-600 milligrams of total cannabinoids.
Yep.
And then over time, we backed off, and she's still getting the same result. Right now, we're doing about 30 milligrams 6-7 times a day. So that's 3 drops. So we've got a process where 10 milligrams of cannabinoids in a drop. And so doing, 100, 150 milligrams a day.
Sorry, John, per drop or per dropper?
Per drop.
Per drop.
So it's pretty concentrated. Yeah. So a very small bottle will last, a pretty long time. And the results have just been beautiful. And if she doesn't do it, she's so busy now, almost back right on her regular schedule. I mean, she just went to Nashville and recorded a duet there with someone, because that album's not out yet.
Okay.
But just right back to the normal scenario. It's just astonishing. And if she gets so busy where she forgets, she'll know that she's forgotten, because some of that pain will start coming on, and she's like, "Where's my drugs?" And so, she just stays right on it. The mental acuity is totally there. The mobility, it's just really, really astonishing to know that this is possible and available to people.
Well, I think this platform, Corinne and I, even in our healthy days, we thought everything happened for a reason, and having this platform that you and Olivia are such public figures, you must have people that are reaching out to you saying, friends and family and strangers, and saying, help. Have you, what, especially help not only fighting cancer, but what you've learned, not only with the herbs, would I say, would it be herbs, the plant medicine that you've learned down in the Amazon, but also incorporating medical cannabis and being an expert in this. Have doctors come to you and saying, help John, this is what we're going through? And then what have you seen? Because you must have seen, I've seen a lot in the last 10 years change in this space. And so you've been in it a lot longer than I have. What have you seen differently in the past 5 or 10 years with cannabis? The stigma's going down. I know Australia is very strict when it comes to this, and Olivia is probably, I'll say the head of all Australians over there. I mean, I want to say I don't want to say she put them on the map, but I lived overseas. I lived overseas when Grease came out, and I was in 6th grade. And when I saw that, I think I saw that 150 times in the first month it was out. So it put Australia on the map for me. So with her being such a public figure, and knock on wood, she's having success with you by her side, and I know you're making, I do follow you guys, and I know that the last time we spoke, you were going to go literally from one side of the country, of the globe to the other, and then back, and now you're back. When I say back, you're over in Australia right now. And so, what are people? I mean, they must be reaching out to you because you're in national.
Yeah, there's a lot of people reaching out, and so I try, like with this format here in any conferences, I'm very open about telling people, what we're doing and the results we're getting, and other people are sharing with me what they're doing, the results we're getting. So it's a community effort and just a collective consciousness of what's happening and what's working. So I'm so pleased with everything I'm doing, and I'm happy to share that. Now, you had mentioned, the Amazonian herbs, and yeah, so this is a big part of it too. And in fact, I'm going to be, doing a presentation with our friends over at the Truth About Cancer in a few weeks in LA on combining cannabis with Amazonian herbs, because we do have a whole protocol of Amazonian herbs. And it's Uña de Gato, Sangre de Drago, Shaka Piedra, Jurabeba, and these are all Graviola. These are all very important in the whole mix of things, because these she's doing every day, as well as some seaweeds and some mushrooms. So this makes the whole package of material we're doing, in addition to the cannabis extracts. So I'm always happy to share those things. I'll be presenting on that. And these are things that people have access to, they can get. I encourage people to, grow their own medicine. I mean, it's hard to grow, Uña de Gato vines that, grow in the Amazon rainforest and some of those things. But, when it comes to cannabis, if everyone had an all small garden with their own cultivars, just getting in touch with that, being in the garden is very healing, and touching plants and having that relationship with this sacred plant, I think, is so important. But people are reaching out to me quite a bit. I share everything that I can share, it's for the benefit of the whole, and people are sharing with me. I'm learning all the time as well. So there's other practitioners that are reaching out that I'm interfacing with. I've been encouraging more research on this. Obviously access is a big issue in research. So you mentioned Australia. Australia is big on research. They're really keen on research. And then on the opposite side, they're not so keen on providing easy access at this point, but that door is opening. And we were visiting just a couple of days ago with the Minister of Health in Australia, and even the Prime Minister, and what they call the opposition party, which is the group that's parties not in power with the They call it the shadow party, so the shadow minister of health. And so you're seeing and having conversations about, medicinal cannabis and the value of medicinal cannabis and doing research and providing access. So the access is beginning to open, which is really good, but they're even a little more onto the research side. So in the government of Victoria, which is the state that Melbourne's in, has granted some funds where we're actually initiating a cancer and cannabis study. It'll be with advanced cancer patients with quality of life markers. How is their pain? How is their sleep? How is their mood? But then underneath that, we'll be able to, be looking at all the cancer markers as well. So that's was approved about a year ago, and it's coming online. And it's probably another 4 or 5 months to get through the whole process where then that's going to happen in the hospital, in the Olivia Newton-John Cancer Wellness Center with advanced cancer patients. So that's really big. 3 days ago, visiting with Greg Hunt, who's the Minister of Health, and he's a very, very bright guy. The exposure to cannabis hasn't been that much, but as he really looks at this and begins to understand it, he's starting from a place of let's do some research. And he told us they're going to allocate another $3 million to cannabis research, and then people can apply. So we're going to apply. The Olivia Newton-John Cancer Wellness Center is going to apply for a piece of that. So we'll have hopefully a follow-on study with cannabis with kind of different cultivars and different extract to compare to the one that's beginning soon. So in the last 5 years, I mean, really it's the last 2 years, I'm seeing a real acceleration of activity, not only in people's understanding of cannabis, but their acceptance of cannabis as being real. And if they go and look at the research or the data, that's when they really know it's real. Before they were making assumptions, well, there's not a lot of research and a lot of data. And I had to point out, well, there's thousands of studies. And right now they're easy to access. And I find one of the easiest place to access good data there specific to someone's condition is greenmedinfo.com, where people can just plug in the cancer and then look at a lot of the things that will come up and really educate yourself. I think education for anyone who's dealing with any sort of issue, you've got to stop, accept responsibility for yourself. Don't give that responsibility to a doctor. Don't say, okay, what have I got? What should I do? You are responsible. Accept that responsibility, have conversations, educate yourself, and then make your decision, in conjunction with everything that you've learned, that you're going to go down this path, or these are what you're going to do, and then do that. And hopefully all the people around you, that love you will support you in your decision, and off you go.